afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Dawson County Board of Commissioners voting session. Today's Thursday, February 20th, 2020. We do appreciate your attendance. First off, I'll entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Fawcett.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. We are out of executive session. We will have two items that I'll ask for your approval to add to the agenda coming out of executive session that we will put in new business when we get to that thing. First off, we have the roll call, so if you would please sign in. And as you can see, we are all here. Ask you to please stand for brief invocation and pledge. If you would bow your heads, please. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for another day and for the many blessings of life. We ask that you give us knowledge and wisdom to carry out the business of this county. Anything that we accomplish, we'll give you the honor and glory. In Christ's name we do ask and pray. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Are there any announcements?
Chairman, I'd like to, I guess it's not an announcement, but I'd like to say a few things.
Go ahead.
If I could. First of all, most everybody knows about the search we had this week, and need to keep the family in your prayers for the lost hiker. But I also want to keep in your prayers the first responders. They see a lot of stuff that most people don't see. They deal with a lot of stuff. They were out in the weather conditions and the cold and terrain and at night, and there was a lot of people involved. And I want to recognize some of those folks that was involved in this search. It was concerned this week. I got phone calls that we didn't have enough resources, that we were limited. And one reason Chief Thompson comes before sometimes for these GEMA and Homeland Security grants and paperwork and mutual aids and automatic aid agreements. And I'm going to tell you what this did and what it does. But these agencies I'd like to thank for showing up and sending us personnel. DNR Law Enforcement Division, DNR Game Management Division, DNR Park Division, Alpha Team. Alpha Team's a private dog team. They're private citizens. They don't get paid a dime. They were out Monday night in the dark searching. Alan Padgett and Bob Bowles. If you don't know, Alan Padgett and Bob Bowles have been involved in some of the largest searches that's been in this state. They teach the classes. They write the books. It's the book that a lot of people go by when they're doing searches. Dawson County Emergency Fire Service and EMA, Dawson County Sheriff's Department's DA office, Dawson County Public Works, Dawson County GIS, Gordon County EMA, Gordon County Fire and Rescue, Fannin County Fire Department, Georgia Search and Rescue Task Force. That's out of Homeland Security. That's your GSAR. They're all over the state. They came up here to help us. Keep going. Union County Fire Department, Amacola State Park Staff, GMA Homeland Security, Gilmer County Fire Department, Forsyth County Fire Department, Gwinnett County Fire Department sent a task force. Georgia State Defense Force, Fayette County K-9. Fayette County came from all the way south of Atlanta that came up here to help us. Georgia State Patrol Aviation Unit, U.S. Forestry Service, Dawson County Board of Commissioners, Dawson County, the District Attorney's Office, Red Cross, Chick-fil-A, and Firehouse. Red Cross, Chick-fil-A, and Firehouse provided food for the men and women out there. So I just want you to keep all the family of the lost victim, the hike-in staff. Like I said, there was several hundred people out there, and just keep them all in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any other announcements? One thing I will say in reference to that is county's always had very good relationship with our brothers and sisters in public safety, and we've always been able to call on them, just like they've always been able to call on us. We've sent people all over this state, and this state sent people all to here as well. So it's a good fraternity, and they work well together to accomplish the task that's at hand. So thank you very much, Chief, for your organizational skills in putting that together, and the rest of our staff who participated as well. Next up, we have the approval of the minutes. First up, we have the minutes of the work session held on February 6, 2020. Is there any additions or deletions? Motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Nix, seconded by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And those are approved 4-0. Next up, we have the minutes of the voting session held on February 6, 2020. Any additions or deletions? Motion.
Motion approved.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. Next up, we have approval of the agenda. Have two additions to the agenda coming out of executive session. First, we number 8 under new business, resolution to amend ACCG defined benefit plan for Dawson County employees. Second edition, number 9 under new business, ACCG defined benefit plan for Dawson County employees adoption agreement amendment number 1. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda with those two changes.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda with the changes that you have mentioned.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
second by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And the agenda is approved with those two changes. No one signed up for public comment in this section. We'll move on to new business. First up, consideration of special event business license application, Hippie Fest. That was presented to you a couple of weeks ago. That will be March 14th and 15th, if approved, 12 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. Any other information needed? Questions? I know Matthew is here, if you have any questions for him.
I'd like to talk about the rain. Do you have an alternate plan if the
Come on up,
rain
ma'am.
continues on? And if you do, I would like to, maybe the board to consider some means of cleaning up cars if they get dirty before they get out on our streets.
If we have an excessive amount of rain, we'll move the events forward some. So the upper part of the parking lot, right now it's asphalt millings. So we'll be bringing in more rock throughout the next couple of weeks until we get there, I guess.
Okay.
You know, we need, that's a concern that somebody brought my attention to is, I know in the past, we've had vehicles stuck there when we had fireworks and things and created a lot of mud, and I know we'll get complaints if it's on the road, so either somebody out there shoveling or a truck washing or something.
We had a pretty wet season last year. So we had almost 30,000 visitors. And it rained a good majority of the time, so I don't think it'll be anywhere near as bad as it was then.
Other questions? Thank you. Motions.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield to approve,
I second.
seconded by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. Next up, we have consideration to move forward with public hearing for abatement of nuisance property. That would require one public hearing. That public hearing would be on March the 5th. Jameson brought that to us at the last meeting. Any other information you need from Jameson prior to going to a public hearing? Or consideration for a public hearing? Motion.
I make a motion, we move forward to a public hearing.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Fawcett,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. The public hearing will be on March the 5th. Next up, we have consideration of automatic aid agreement with Pickens County. Chief Thompson brought that to us 2 weeks ago. That was in reference to the renewal of an agreement that we've had for a long time, redrawing of lines due to the fact that they now were managing the old Station 8, which is now Station 10, I believe, for them. So redrawing of the lines required a new agreement that has been approved by Pickens County's Board of Commissioners and now is before you. Any other information needed? Motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Nix,
Second.
second by Commissioner Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. Next up, we have consideration of 2020 charity boot drive. Chief Thompson brought those before you as well. Burn Foundation would be May 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 9 to 11 a.m. and 4 to 6 p.m. Muscular Dystrophy Association, September 3rd, 4th, and 5th, from 9 to 11 a.m. in the morning and 4 to 6 p.m. in the evening. The last one, Care for Kids, November 27th and 28th, 9 to 11 a.m. and 3 to 5 p.m. Any other information needed? Motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield,
Second.
second by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion.
Chief, and again, a lot of this money comes back to the county. Burn Foundation, we get money back for life safety projects. MDA supports kids in our county with those conditions. And then the Care for Kids, we buy Christmas for kids in the county. So appreciate it. Thanks.
Other discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And those are approved. Next up, we have consideration of request to accept Georgia Child Passenger Safety Mini Grant. Chief Thompson brought this as well. This gives us 6 convertibles and 4 high-back boosters monthly for a whole year at no cost to the county. Any other information needed? Motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Fawcett, seconded by Commissioner Nix. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. Next up, we have consideration of request to accept Emergency Management Performance Grant. That's the $15,568 grant, 50-50 match. Our part will be $77.84, which is in the budget. Any other information needed? Motion.
I think this just needs to be ratified. I got it in my notes, needs to be ratified. I think there was a
We
deadline.
voted to put it,
Correct. So,
ratification.
Mr. Chairman, you're correct. So, last voting session, you all ratified to be able to apply
Apply for it. Never
it.
got it.
And so this will be, we've already received the acceptance. As I spoke about the grants portal, it was within 48 hours of once we hit the send button that it was accepted. So this is to ratify the acceptance.
This is the acceptance section. Yes. We're accepting it.
We like to accept free money.
Yes, we do.
Well, we've had it, yes. And we got it in the budget. Any other information needed? Motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield,
Second.
second by Commissioner Fawcett. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. Next up, consideration of resolution to declare support for Second Amendment rights in Dawson County. We had a discussion in reference to supporting the Second Amendment rights of all of our citizens at our last meeting, and we've had several renditions of what we've been looking at. So I'm going to go to Commissioner Gaines.
So we were brought this by the Republican Party, Shawnee Zappa for the Republican Party, and I can just tell the folks that we all have spent a lot of time looking over this. I've spent many hours looking at different options and the languages that are provided, and I'd like to read for the board the option that I feel is the strongest support this board can offer for the support for the Second Amendment and our citizens' rights to bear arms, and also while we're simultaneously just affirming our commitment to the rule of law. So I'll read that to start with. So it's kind of lengthy, so y'all get comfortable. A resolution by the Dawson County Board of Commissioners affirming its support of the Second Amendment and the right of its citizens to keep and bear arms, while simultaneously further affirming its commitment to the rule of law generally. Whereas the Board of Commissioners of Dawson County, Georgia, being elected to represent the people of Dawson County, Georgia, and being duly sworn by oath to uphold the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the State of Georgia, and whereas the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States reads as follows: a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And whereas the United States Supreme Court has affirmed an individual's right to possess firearms, unconnected with the service in the militia, for traditionally lawful purposes such as self-defense within the home, and referencing a case, District of Columbia versus Heller, 2008. And whereas the United States Supreme Court has affirmed that the right of an individual to keep and bear arms is protected under the Second Amendment and is incorporated by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment against the states, McDonald versus Chicago, 2010. And whereas Article 1, Section 1, Paragraph 8 of the Constitution of the State of Georgia, entitled Arms Right to Keep and Bear, provides that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, but the General Assembly shall have the power to prescribe the manner in which the arms may be borne. And whereas OCGA 1-2-6A9 lists the right to keep and bear arms among the rights of citizens of the state of Georgia that are without limitation, and whereas the citizens of Dawson County, Georgia, regard the right of people to keep and bear arms for the defense of life, liberty, and property as a fundamental right protected by the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and otherwise further protected by the Constitution of the State of Georgia. And whereas the citizens of Dawson County, Georgia, derive economic and social benefit from all safe forms of firearms recreation, hunting, shooting, and whereas it is the desire of the Dawson County Board of Commissioners to declare and affirm its support of the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution and to the provisions of the Constitution of the State of Georgia and the general laws of Georgia that protect Dawson County citizens' right to keep and bear arms. Therefore, be it resolved by the Dawson County Board of Commissioners that Dawson County does hereby declare and affirm that it fully supports and embraces its citizens' right to keep and bear arms, is guaranteed by the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution, the Georgia Constitution, and OCGA 1-2-6A9. Be it further resolved that Dawson County stands opposed to any law that may undermine the protections afforded by the Second Amendment and or the Georgia Constitution, to the extent such laws have been declared unconstitutional by a court of competent jurisdiction. Be it further resolved that while Dawson County stands opposed to any laws that may be deemed in derogation of the Second Amendment and those equivalent protections of the Georgia Constitution, Dawson County further affirms its adherence to the rule of law generally and believes that disputes over constitutionality, legality, and enforcement of duly enacted laws should be challenged and vetted by the appropriate legal process. Be it further resolved that no agent, employee, or official of Dawson County shall provide support or participate in any way with the implementation of federal acts, orders, rules, laws, or regulations in violation of the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, if such acts, orders, rules, laws, or regulations have been determined by a court of competent jurisdiction to be in the degradation or violation of the Second Amendment. Be it further resolved that the Dawson County Board of Commissioners will not authorize or appropriate funds, resources, employees, agencies, contractors, buildings, detention centers, or offices for the purpose of enforcing or assisting in the enforcement of any acts, laws, orders, mandates, rules, or regulations that infringe upon the right of the people to keep and bear arms, if such acts, laws, orders, mandates, rules, or regulations have been determined by a court of competent jurisdiction to be in a derogation or violation of the Second Amendment. And that would be, I would further that with a motion that we approve the resolution as I presented it. And again, just to highlight, this really solidifies the support that this board has for the citizens of this community for the right to bear arms.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gaines, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Satterfield, discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 4-0. Next up, we have item number 8, the resolution to amend ACCG defined benefit plan for Dawson County employees. And I will read that resolution. Whereas Dawson County, Georgia, the employer, by and through the Dawson County Board of Commissioners, previously adopted the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia defined benefit plan for Dawson County employees, now known as the plan, through an adoption agreement and addendum that were most recently amended and restated effective as of January 1, 2015. Whereas Section 16.02B of the plan allows the employer to amend the elected provisions of the adoption agreement at any time. Whereas the adoption agreement reflects that the plan was frozen to new participants as of January 1, 2007 by classifying as an ineligible employee any employee whose employment or reemployment commencement date is on or after January 1, 2007. Whereas the employer desires to amend the adoption agreement to restore David Headley's participation in the plan as of his most recent reemployment commencement date, which was on or about September 19, 2016. And whereas the employer desires to adopt the attached adoption agreement amendment 1 to implement the above described provisions, and whereas the employer desires that the attached adoption agreement amendment number 1 be effective upon approval by the Dawson County Board of Commissioners, provided that Mr. Headley is an employee on such date, but that Mr. Headley's plan participation shall be retroactive to his most recent reemployment commencement date. Now therefore, at the meeting held on this date, 2020, the Dawson County Board of Commissioners hereby resolve as follows. Resolve that the Dawson County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the adoption of the attached adoption agreement amendment 1. Further resolve that the commission chair is hereby authorized, empowered, and directed to take all further actions and to execute all documents necessary to implement these resolutions. And further resolve that any resolution in conflict with this resolution is hereby repealed this day of February 2020. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the resolution.
Motion by Commissioner Satterfield. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gaines. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that's approved 3-2. Second resolution, number 9, on new business. Association of County Commissioners of Georgia Defined Benefit Plan for Dawson County Employees Adoption Agreement Amendment number 1. This amendment is made and entered into by Dawson County, Georgia, the employer, to reflect amendments made by the employer to the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia Defined Benefit Plan for Dawson County Employees. Whereas the employer previously adopted the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia Defined Benefit Plan for Dawson County employees through an adoption agreement and addendum that were most recently amended and restated effective as of January 1, 2015. Whereas Section 16.02 of the plan allows the employer to amend the elective provisions of the adoption agreement at any time. Whereas participation in the plan is frozen as employees with employment or reemployment commencement dates on or after January 1, 2007 are ineligible employees under the plan, and whereas the employer desires to amend the adoption agreement to unfreeze the plan for purposes of restoring David Headley's participation as of his most recent reemployment commencement date, which was on or about September 19, 2016. Now for the plan as restated as of January 1, 2015, is hereby amended as follows. Section 1.3 of the adoption agreement, employee shall be amended as of September 19, 2016 by adding the following to the definition of excluded employee. Notwithstanding the foregoing, David Headley, whose reemployment commencement date was on or about September 19, 2016, shall not be excluded employee and shall be restored participation in the plan as of such reemployment commencement date. This restoration of participation shall apply only to this and not to any subsequent reemployment commencement date. Nothing in this paragraph shall be deemed to award Mr. Headley credit or vesting period for any period in which he was not an eligible employee. In witness whereof, the employer has called its duly authorized officer to execute this amendment on the date specified below. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion by Commissioner Gaines,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Satterfield. Discussion. Hearing none, please vote. And that is approved 3-0. Anyone signed up for public comment in this segment?
No, sir.
3-2. Approved 3-2. No one signed up?
No, sir.
Thank you for your attendance. We are adjourned.